Prince Harry appeared in court in June of 2023. This is very rare for the royal family to do. The news is highlighting that it's been over 130 years since the last time a senior British royal gave evidence in court. But what are they all talking about, and what's the story behind the scandal? Edward VII, then just Prince Bertie, appeared in the witness box in 1891 involving slander and cheating. But there have been a fair few royals appearing in other court cases, both before and after this, and as Harry has shown, could still happen to this day. So what is happening now in 2023? Prince Harry is suing a tabloid over alleged unlawful information gathering, namely phone hacking. In a rare event seen by senior royal family members, Harry took the witness box and made his witness statement on the case, and was cross-examined. This trial is still ongoing, so I can't say too much about it, so why don't we go back in time to see how some of the royals were in trial. Charles I. First up, we are casting our eye way back to 1649. Charles I himself was put on trial for treason after the end of the English Civil War. Now, murder and overthrowing, sure, but a king had never been tried and executed in English history before. The court brought charges of tyranny and treason against King Charles I. Treason in this case was not committed against the king, but by the king against his own people. The trial was held at Westminster Hall on the 20th of January 1649. Holding the trial in public was felt necessary by the court, as it was for the people these charges were given. But when asked for his plea, the king continued questioning the court's authority in the trial, asserting that they had no right to make judgment upon their own king. This would be the only thing the king would continue to repeat when asked, until eventually they stopped asking for his response. On principle, the court wanted to prove that the king was not above the law, and the king, on his own principle, wanted to prove that Parliament had no power over him. Interestingly, a record of the trial and proceedings was produced. One account from John Bradshaw, Lord President of the court, declared the king a tyrant, traitor, a murderer, and a public enemy to the Commonwealth of England. In order to display the power of the House of Commons, they would, as Oliver Cromwell said, cut off his head with the crown on it. Charles I was found guilty and sentenced to death. A public execution was held outside the banqueting house at Whitehall on the 30th of January 1649. And this takes us to Edward VII. Another legal affair involving the royals was on two accounts with Edward VII. At the time, he was Prince of Wales, son of Queen Victoria. He gave testimony in 1870 in a divorce proceeding after being accused of participating in adultery with a married woman. His friend Harriet Mordaunt confessed to her husband of the affair, not just with the prince, but with other high-status men. The prince testified that there had been no relations between him and the woman in question. This testimony, along with Harriet's father claiming her insanity, forced the court to end the proceedings and detained Harriet to an asylum, declaring her insane. A pretty crazy story for the future king to be involved in. And the Prince of Wales once again found himself in the witness stand in 1891, a part of a slander trial over a card game. This was to be called the Royal Baccarat scandal. All it took was one house party, one game of cards, and an accusation of cheating by one of its attendees. Edward was called as a witness. The trial was the talk of the town, a very popular event for the public who wanted to snap up seats in the courtroom, and also widely reported on in the newspapers at the time. According to reporters, he made a weak impression and was very fidgety and quiet. Apparently, public opinion turned against him and his involvement in such business, and his gambling habits. He already had a poor reputation for womanizing and gambling. More so, his reputation was further tainted in that the accused was a good friend, Sir William Gordon Cumming. But soon the scandal was brushed under the carpet, and Prince Bertie just kept his gambling a little more private. This was the last time a senior British royal gave evidence in court until 2023, over 130 years ago. Prince Bertie found out then the difficulties of keeping his private life separate from the court of public opinion, but despite being heir to the throne, he also bended to the rule of law and justice, providing a witness statement when summoned, and despite any relationship to the defendant, one must remain truthful and unbiased. Perhaps being a part of such cases and legal affairs are able to humble the royal family. At least in both the cases he was a part of, it wasn't the prince himself on trial. And next up we have George V. It would only be about 20 years later, in 1911, when Edward's son, George V, would be involved in the court of justice himself. A rumour had surfaced that George V was a bigamist, meaning he was secretly married already before his marriage to his wife Queen Mary. Bigamy being illegal was not an accusation taken lightly. Reporter Edward Milius published a scandalous rumour in an article called Sanctified Bigamy in the Liberator newspaper printed in Paris. The King's Council decided something had to be done to tamper the rumours and brought a case of libel against Milius. When it comes to the royal family, they are not untouchable or above the letter of the law. But what is clear is that when it comes to the monarch themselves, being involved in justice, things get a little bit complicated. This case brought up a few legal problems. The Attorney General and Lord Chief Justice both agreed that the King could not be compelled to give evidence. It was, after all, in his own name that justice was being dispensed. An odd argument considering Charles I's experience at his own trial, who would probably still be arguing that they had no legal power over him. There is an argument to be made that the trial was skewed in favour for the King, but equally claims that the King has the power to prosecute who he wants. The King was an anomaly, something English law had never dealt with, a possible witness that could not be compelled by law to do anything, to give testimony, to swear oath, or even to tell the truth. The King shall not give evidence in his own cause. It is clear that His Majesty's testimony is not admissible in cases of treason or felony. The King was requested to appear to give evidence by the defendant themselves in an attempt to call his bluff on the rumour. In this case, the King wanted to give a statement and wanted to clear his own name from the accusations put forth. Though he did not appear in court to give formal witness testimony, King George did provide a written statement to deny the accusations. In the case of R vs. E.F. Milius, Milius was charged with libel concerning the King and sentenced to 12 months imprisonment. Despite the King not showing up and the trial being concluded over the course of a day, it still proved quite popular for public viewing. The Times even published an entire account of the trial, titled The King's Honour, on the 2nd of February 1911. So even over 100 years ago, a royal legal affair was plastered all over the papers. Before I finish up, I want to show a list of not so honourable honorary mentions. Princess Diana. In 1994, Prince Harry's mother, Princess Diana, provided a witness statement over a peeping Tom who took photographs of her exercising in a gym. Ultimately, she did not take to the witness box, as she won without having to go to court. She was very happy about the result, as she had a permanent injunction issued to ban future use of the photographs. Princess Anne. Queen Elizabeth's only daughter, Princess Anne, was fined £400 and 5 penalty points on her driving licence when she pleaded guilty to speeding. In 2002, Princess Anne pleaded guilty for her dogs biting 2 children, and thus she was convicted of a criminal offence, becoming the first British royal in 350 years to have one. And lastly, Prince Andrew. In 2021, Prince Harry's uncle, Prince Andrew, was sued in the United States in allegations and other connections with one Jeffrey Epstein. The suit was settled and Andrew was not charged with any criminal offence. These are a few high-profile cases of royals being questioned or brought to the court. It's interesting to see how the public opinion changes at the sight of royals being involved in the courtroom drama. Especially interesting to see the diverse spectrum of trials that take place, from simple speeding fine tickets to full-on treason and everything in between. Prince Harry's trial is still ongoing and is the latest one involving a royal family member. Let me know what you think about royals appearing in court, and if this is something that changes your opinion of them. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you for watching. Goodbye for now.